All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to put on our detective hats. In a world that's just absolutely flooded with information, knowing how to sort through the clues is probably one of the most important skills you can have. So, we're going to break down exactly how you can categorize pretty much any source you find and hopefully turn you into a master information detective. Think about it. Have you ever started researching something, you type a few words into a search engine, and bam, you're just hit with this total avalanche of results? It's so easy to feel completely lost, right? Like you don't even know where to begin. Well, you're not alone. And that information maze is precisely why every good detective needs a system for sorting the evidence. So, how do you bring order to all that chaos? Well, before you can even start analyzing the evidence, the very first step is always to sort it. Just get it into some manageable piles. Think of this as the first quick sweep of the crime scene, just to get a feel for what you're dealing with. Okay, so the first big sort is pretty simple. You ask, is it a document? Documentary sources are the things you can actually hold or see. Books, articles, videos, computer files. Non-documentary sources are a little more abstract. They're things like people, experts you might interview, or organizations, like a university or a government agency. It's basically the difference between reading a final report and talking to the person who actually wrote it. Now, building on that, our next layer of sorting is about the format. Is it a traditional printed thing, like a book or a magazine, or is it something else? And that something else, the non-print category, is huge. It includes everything from handwritten letters and academic theses to old microfilms and, of course, digital files. And our last preliminary sort is this. Was this information ever meant for the public? Published sources are things made for wide distribution, like books, patents, and magazines. But unpublished sources, well, they're usually not for sale and there are only a few copies. Think of things like personal diaries, internal company files, or a scientist's private lab notebook. All right, so we've done our first sweep. We've sorted our clues by type. Now we can get to the real heart of the investigation. This, right here, is the detective's most essential skill, understanding the nature of the evidence itself. And this brings us to the three core categories of information: primary, secondary, and tertiary. First up, primary sources. The best way to think about these is as the raw, first-hand evidence from the scene of the crime. A primary source is the original stuff. It's the very first time this piece of information, this new discovery, or this idea has ever been written down. It is pure, unfiltered data. So, what does this raw evidence actually look like? This slide gives us some perfect examples. We're talking about a scientist's original lab notes, a patent filed for a brand new invention, or an entry from a personal diary. Each one is a direct, uninterpreted piece of the puzzle captured right at the moment of creation. It's the footprint at the scene, the original interview transcript. It's the pure, unanalyzed facts of the case. Next, we've got secondary sources. Now, if a primary source is the raw evidence, a secondary source is like the detective's case file. It takes all that messy, scattered, raw information from the primary sources and it organizes it, it analyzes it, and it interprets it to tell a story or to make a point. And what goes into that case file? Well, as you can see here, it's things like textbooks that summarize a whole field or encyclopedias that give you background information. Their entire reason for existing is to process that primary information. They are always one step removed from the original event, and they provide that crucial context and analysis that helps us make sense of all the raw data. And finally, we have tertiary sources. These are the master keys to the whole evidence locker. They don't have the evidence inside or even the case files themselves. Nope, their only job is to point you in the right direction, to help you find the primary and secondary sources you need for your investigation. So what does one of these keys look like? Well, think of a directory, a guide to reference books, or even something called a bibliography of bibliographies, which is exactly what it sounds like. They are tools for finding information, not the information itself. They're what help you navigate this vast world of sources without getting totally lost. Okay, so this all seems pretty neat and tidy, right? Primary, secondary, tertiary. Easy. But here's a little twist in the case. Just when you think you've got the perfect system for filing all your evidence, you find out that, well, not all detectives agree on the filing system. Now, what's really fascinating is this quote pulled directly from our source material. It basically says that the rules for categorizing information aren't totally set in stone. The lines can get pretty blurry, and even the top experts sometimes argue about where a particular clue really belongs. And just look at this table. It demonstrates the disagreement perfectly. Take something we all know, a textbook. Two experts call it secondary, one calls it tertiary, and another one even argues it can be a primary source. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that context is everything. How you use a source often determines what it is. So, with all this messiness and disagreement, how does any of this actually help you crack your own cases? Why is all this detective work important for your everyday life, whether you're a student, a professional, or just a curious person trying to figure things out? Well, it matters because understanding these categories transforms you from just a passive consumer of information into an active, critical investigator. It gives you a mental framework to evaluate everything you read and to find exactly what you need way more efficiently. Honestly, this knowledge is like your superpower. It lets you instantly size up whatever source you're looking at. Is this article reporting brand new original research, or is it just summarizing someone else's work? Am I looking at raw data, or am I reading an opinion about that data? This skill allows you to go find the right type of information for your specific need. If you just need a quick overview, you hunt for secondary sources. But if you want to form your own unique conclusion, you go straight to the primary sources to examine the evidence for yourself. So we'll leave you with this thought. The next time you start an investigation, a research project, or even just a Google search, ask yourself, what am I really looking for here? Am I after the raw evidence, the detailed case file, or the index that just points the way? Knowing the answer will make you a faster, smarter, and much more effective information detective.